out of the ordinary insights. Brought to you by Investec Specialist Bank.
Hello and a warm welcome to this week's edition of Captains of Industry. I'm Natasha Jacobs. Joining me in the hot seat this week is Braum, the General Manager for Lenovo Africa. Graham, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you took over the role of GM of Lenovo Africa just over a year ago. And before that, you were Regional Manager for Acer, a company which you've been with since 1997. How's the transition been, given that you spent a significant part of your career at Acer?
Yeah, I think it's been exciting. I think the IT industry today has gone through a 180-degree shift, and I think there's just so much opportunity. So I think I'd like to say that I went to university at Acer, and now I'm about to graduate with Lenovo. And yeah, it's been exciting. I think I learned a lot for sure in the time I was with Acer. Many different countries, spending 4 or 5 years in the Middle East as well, and a lot of different cultures there, a lot of different ways of addressing markets. So the experience was good. And at the same time, I think Africa was still in its infancy from an IT perspective. It still is, but I think you have to watch the space. It's not about 10 years from now. It could be today or tomorrow. But I just say Africa is on the map. There's a lot of investment from governments, and it's an exciting time. And we just want to make sure that we give the tools to basically every single segment in Africa, and we believe we've got the tools now. So
before we talk about the African growth story, Acer, a Taiwanese company, Lenovo, a Chinese company, both very strong Asian influence. How's that influenced your career and the way you perceive and do business from a technology perspective?
Yeah, I think it's been, from a learning perspective, it's been brilliant. I think both, if you look at both sides, they're very focused on research and development, very focused on innovation. And I think today you have to innovate in order to lead. We're focused historically, both companies, on the hardware. I think the change today is investment in the full ecosystem. And, you know, that's once again a word. You have to take it to market and you have to execute it. So I think that's the important thing, is that I think once you start with the device and you really understand the customer that you want to put the piece of technology into, which segment you want to put it into, that is exciting. But ultimately then, what is the glue for that device with the customer, and how do you identify it? And I see that's the change. But both companies are extremely focused on the research and development, on the innovation, and I think that's why they've been so successful in the different categories that they wanted to go to market in. So I think, yeah, I've learned a lot from that as well. It's not just about a product; it's about an end-to-end solution. But I think the most important thing is to understand your customer, and every customer is different. So I think you look at South Africa, I think if you look at the different provinces, we've got a very different customer in each province. Now if you go and look at 50 countries, each one of them has their own DNA. Unless you really understand them end to end, I think it's very difficult to really put your DNA as a company onto their customer.
Well, your DNA is working. As I said, Lenovo is a Chinese multinational firm headquartered in Beijing. According to figures released by both the IDC and Gartner, you've notched up the poll, now the #1 PC manufacturer globally, with a market share, according to first quarter data, 16.7%. Now, given the context that you mentioned, we're moving towards a post-PC world and technology advancement. We're seeing a shift away from PCs and to some extent personal laptop computers as well. How do you remain relevant and competitive in all the markets you operate in?
Yeah, I like to see it as two different strategies. At the same time, both are as important as each other. So you mentioned PC, and we put that into one category, and we're seeing, let's say, some decline in that market from a global perspective. It is still very relevant and very important. So PC in the professional side, which Lenovo is very, very strong, and we hold very good market share. And the acquisition of IBM and the Think range of products in 2005 has really allowed us to really take that to the next level. So PC is still very important for us. We are #1. I think it's very exciting for us as a company. There's no doubt, a lot of hard work, 17 quarters in a row. The biggest growth out of any vendor. So I think it's been a lot of work globally, and I think a lot of work on the mature and the emerging markets. The other side is what we call PC Plus, which really incorporates what we call 4 screens. So PC as being 1 screen, tablets being the 2nd screen, smartphones the 3rd screen, and then smart TV the 4th screen. So that's the PC Plus, and really what falls into a category of smart connected devices. So we'll continue to invest heavily in PC on both the traditional devices, so be it stationary computing in the desktop environment or in mobility. I just think the type of devices in the PC era will look a lot different to even what they looked 12 months ago, which means that your desktop, as we all remember, was a real big box.
A clunky machine.
Correct. Now it's a little 1 litre box. It's literally as big as a small sort of A6 diary, but in that is a fully fledged PC. So that's the change there. On mobility today, I'm not sure how to define it. They call them convertibles, detachables, all sorts of things, but still it's a fully fledged PC and a very small package as well. Could be less than a kilogram, but with the firepower of the original notebook, which was around about 16 kilograms. So the PC market is changing. The decline is there, but eventually it's going to stabilize. So we continue to invest heavily on the R&D on that side. On PC Plus, I think it's been already a long journey for us. We currently have more than 1,300 engineers deployed specifically around mobile internet and digital home, which incorporates a smartphone and tablet. But as I said before, it's not just the device. It's the glue with the device that goes into a whole lot of different segments and end users. And I think that's where the excitement comes in. So we're focused on the next step, on how we become more relevant in the PC Plus or smart connected environment. Today, if you look at the smart connected environment or PC Plus, Lenovo's number 3. We've still got a lot of work to do to overtake number 2 and number 1, but that's the focus of the organization now. Without ignoring the PC side, I think we have a very exciting and mature roadmap when it comes to tablet technologies, both in the professional and the consumer environment. And once again, that's incorporating multiple operating systems. So before in the PC space, we had a domination from either one technology provider in the CPU space and one in the operating system. Today, everything's changed, and we're seeing a lot more players, a lot more opportunities, a lot more requirements from the end user. So I think before, maybe we could dictate, or somebody in our industry who was a clear influencer could dictate to an end user. Today we can't.
End users
dictating to us. So
let's talk about those
exciting.
end users and talk about market segmentation. Of course, B2C, business to customer, and business to business. Where does the majority of Lenovo's business lie? And can you be everything to everyone given the pickiness of consumers today?
It's quite a complex question, because if I had to bring in probably 20 different companies today, and I had to ask them what is the correct device for your organization, I think we get 20 different answers. And this is why, and there's a lot of terminology about bring your own device and everything. I would say going back even probably 30 months ago, if I had to go into an organization and I had to devise a solution for them, probably have 2 or 3 different types of solutions for their environment. Today what we're seeing is that they have to support multiple operating systems.
Now, Graham, let's look at a subsection of your business-to-business market, which is government. And I'm raising this specifically because of your strategy in Kenya. How important is this alliance, and especially given the context of the African continent?
I think government today, once again as well, they are investing, and they're investing and understand that technology is super important in order to drive the economy in their countries. And I think what you're seeing today, Africa is a great place. If we look at the youth today, I think we got more than 50% of the population under the age of 17. And with that in mind, you know, what better catalyst than to equip that audience with technology in order to drive economic growth. Now, the key thing is, unlike me, I never grew up in the digital era.
You're a digital immigrant as opposed to a digital native.
I call myself the silver surfer. So that's how we categorize myself. But even today, I think if you see silver surfers, it's a big emerging market, because we weren't exposed to the digital era. Today we're embracing it, so it's a huge emerging market for us. But going back to the youth, I think governments have understood that they need to equip their youth with technology. They really need to make sure that, for instance, every student, every teacher really understands technology and embraces technology to move to the next level.
And has it available.
Yes, and probably they would have done it sooner, but the big thing is around connectivity. We never had the connectivity in Africa. Unfortunately, geographically, I mean, Africa is more than 20% of the world's land. So with that in mind, to go and put a broadband or a cable structure...
I mean, we have the SECOM cables, but the
difficult.
problem is the back end and the last mile connectivity to every country.
And we've only got 5 cables in place up East and West Africa today. By next year, there'll be 14. So connectivity will improve. But the key around the devices today is being offline makes no sense. Being online makes sense.
Absolutely.
You have to be online. And I think we're going to see it. It's going to come, as I say, it could be as early as tomorrow or next month. It's not 10 years away. This is the exciting thing. What we believe as Lenovo, what we need to do is to really make sure that we put a lot of proof of concepts in front of government to really understand what is a good solution for education, and it's no longer one solution. We're probably putting 10 in front of them and really understanding how we can make a difference for each government in each country. So we've got to go brick by brick, but I don't believe that unless you do that, unless you're relevant to their needs, either interfacing with the Minister of Technology, Minister of Information, Minister of Finance, even Deputy President and President level, that you can really understand what their strategy is. Our job, I believe, is really to put the tools in their hands to show them what is available, not today as well, to show them the roadmap for the next 18 months on where they should be going. And it's more of an advisory role to really help them move to the next level and equip the government of all these countries with the tools to take them to the next level. And if youth is such a big part of this, really we need to make sure that they are ready for the next phase. And one of our responsibilities is to help educate the youth as well on technology. And we're trying to do that, but I agree, 54 countries, it will take time. So it's a focused approach, and really we are going step by step. But it's exciting. I think it is exciting because at the same time, we are learning, they are learning as well, because as I said, you know, probably every month now we're having a new technology coming, which we believe is that much better for youth in particular. I think we've moved away from a traditional keyboard, traditional mouse. It's all about touch, and touch is natural. And I can relate. I've got young kids, but you know, even the youngest, who is 3,
knows how to work that smartphone.
Touch is easy, eh? Tablet or smartphone, yeah.
Well, I want to get back to the smartphone market, something which you are venturing in at the end of the year. So